So this is something different. This is a Sony charger for a camera or a camcorder. It's a Sony AC-V515 from probably the mid-90s. We have a number of Sony Mavic cameras. They're the ones with the floppy disk, and I still find these today very convenient. And especially as some of these cameras were over £1,000, and there's no reason for me to change just because the format has changed. Some of these cameras have got very, very good close-up features, which is ideal, especially in our church organ restoration side of the business. So we continue to support them. Well, yesterday this charger came from eBay, and the beauty of this charger is that it has the power output socket, meaning that we can run a camera off a power supply rather than just batteries, and that does have its there are good reasons to do that from time to time. And I've been on the lookout for one of these particular chargers. There is another way to get this power connector, and it's on quite an expensive charger, and even second hand, the V700 I think it is, they seem to fetch about £50. So this was under 20. But guess what? I charged half a battery on it and it stopped working. But we're not going to start moaning and send it back because we need it. That's why it was bought. The first hurdle is these screws. I'll just put that back in there and we'll just zoom in the camera so you can see this type of security screw. So that's the bit which we've chosen from our security bit set. We have several security bit sets in order to get the ones we need. This one came from Aldi or Lidl. So we'll go back to a normal thing. I expect there's a capacitor which is coming to the end of its life inside this power supply. So we'll see whether we can open it up and effect a cure. I'm hoping I've got all the screws out and I don't want to break it. There we go. So we're expecting a switch mode power supply, and it says on the bottom it's good for 100 to 240 volts, and it does 6.5 amps, 2 amps to run a camera all the time, and it does 8.4 volts at 1.4 amps to charge a battery, and it's made in Japan. So as you'd expect from a genuine Sony product, it's well made. We've not got a circuit diagram. We may end up doing a blanket capacitor change. So I'm going to get down these heat sinks a bit, and we'll see whether we can dismantle it a bit. So the next stage, I've got the bottom off. I've taken a plastic insert out. There's a shield plate in the plastic insert there. So that gets to the bottom, but I want to get to the top to see how many other capacitors are lurking. So there's 3 lugs which I've bent back and unsoldered, or the other way around. Then I found that there's a transistor mounted here, which I've had to unsolder because it's put on the heatsink at an earlier stage. So that's been bolted to the heatsink. That you will notice that they have put a hole through, so you can unscrew that, which is good. So I've had to unsolder that. That remains a unit. So let's see what's next to unclip. So we've got So we're going to be changing that. I can actually feel a slight bulge in that. So this works for about 10 minutes and then it goes down. I'm not suggesting the vendor has ripped me off or anything, but it's so easy for me to change these parts and get this back to working order. And at the end of the day, it's 25 years old, and people can tend to leave these type of products plugged in. May as well unplug the power lead as well. So you've just left with a board. So it's very sophisticated and must be. I bet these were over £100 at the time. So it'll be electrolytic capacitors. So I'll tell you what. I think we'll change There's an afterthought one there which we can stay. But I'll tell you what, we'll change all the ones which are obvious. That may be interesting because that might have to be ordered. So inevitably, the big capacitor is a special value, and I'm going to have to order it. So when you see this video, I'll have to have ordered it, had it, and fixed it. So it's 56 microfarads at 400 volts, and it is shooting its load out of there. And we can see some of that residue down there on the board. So I've changed that, and that. So I'm not going to bother with that afterthought one. Clearly that's going to be the problem. And we'll just check these with the meter. We'll start with the ones I've taken out because I'm just in there and I may as well swap them for the cost they are. Most of these are about 16 pence. So what's that? Should be 4.7 microfarads, 4.378. So next one, oh, it's faulty. 47 microfarads at 25 volts. Oh, good. That looks like our first problem over. Next one. 452, and it should be, yeah, that's fine, 470. But you can see that after 25 years, these are starting to fail. I mean, we've got that leakage from the big one, which we haven't tested yet. 994, and it's supposed to be 1,000. So yeah, I've changed 3 of them unnecessarily. One was faulty, and let's look for this 56 microfarad one. See, that is reading slightly high. I could put that back and it probably would work for a bit longer, but we're not going to do that. We'll order one. So clearly we've found the fault, and I'll get one of those ordered. So roll on the next day. I've not been able to do anything else because this bench has been held up, and bench 4A only does receive and not transmit. So I've been stuck. So we've now had a delivery from RS. Hopefully I can get through 2 layers of packing. Oh, individually wrapped. You get something for your £3. So what did we tend to... There we go. Exactly what we wanted. Not quite sure what I did with the other one, so let's hope we can get this to fit. This is the only one that was anything like the kind of size and shape of the one that came out. It's a Nikon, it's 105 degree rated. Might have to expand these holes, might have to re-drill the holes, because look, it's nowhere near the spacing of the original one. But this is how it is. So what I've just done prior to, I'll just move this camera a bit. Just prior to getting the drill out, I'm just using a normal hand drill. We have printed circuit board drills here, but I'm just not bothering to set one up for something as mundane as this. I'm going to carefully drill from the face side as well, from the wrong side as well. So what I've done is to push this down the available space and twist it so I've got a mark on the SRBP of the printed circuit board. It's only SRBP, so it's you know, it's easy to work with it being a consumer item. So I've now got a score mark there and a score mark there. So I reckon if we're very, very careful, we can do that one. You'd always drill from the print side, not from this side. So it's going to come out. It's going to come out about there. The other one just needs kind of opening up sideways, which we can do from this side, hopefully. So we'll just do the same from this side. So basically I've ended up elongating that hole, which is what we're aiming at. And the other one, I'm still not wanting to go all the way through from there. So we're going to kind of guesstimate it as there. There we are, and it has perfectly met up with the hole. So hopefully, if I just try it from this side, yep, that looks like it's going to fit in the hole. There's slightly bigger pins. These are things you end up having to do. So it clearly says positive to my left here, and it clearly says negative on the capacitor. So hopefully we can now get that to line up. I'll tell you what, I guessed on that, that's experience for you, on the 1.5mm. Because we do quite a lot of construction from scratch, as you know, especially with the ham radio gear. So that's now firmly in position. So we'll just solder it up, and that won't be too difficult. So that's still within the solder pad area. And so is that. So I'm just going to go over it with the isopropyl alcohol and the brush that I finished off Mr. Chippy's bench while he's not here. And wherever we change those other ones, we'll just tidy that up. Don't know who's going to look at this in 20 years' time and say, what screwdriver bodger's been in this? So now we're going to have to wait for that to dry, because I'm absolutely convinced that there's no damage to even the finest track. It's absolutely spot on. So, in conclusion, we've changed that, and that. One of those was faulty. This was leaking, so it's been replaced, even though it wasn't reading as faulty yet. If you remember, the original symptom was it came on, lit up for 10 minutes, and then it went back out again, so you could never charge a battery. So with that, we'll put this back together, which is going to be interesting because it was yesterday and it's now today. So putting it back together, we're going to have to put this shield plate in, this plastic thing in first. And we've no longer got a gap between that transformer and the capacitor, so I've got no alternative but to remove this. This is where we start having to bodge things. So see whether we've taken enough off that now. So hopefully we've cut enough off that to put these tabs in. Just fits. So now the art is, do we get it back in the case? Oh, we've got this bottom bit to put on, haven't we? Okay, well that bit's gone together. And that's gone in. We're just slightly a bit fat there. Right, mains lead. I really ought to try this before putting it back, but there you go. I've every confidence. Right, that looks to be about lined up. Yep. Hang on, that's not in right, is it? And there goes the door. They've certainly packed a lot in these, you know, and I bet people throw these in the bin. Oh, got rid of that old camera. And at least these people did the right thing and sold it on eBay. And I'm sure they didn't know it didn't work properly, because it did light up for 10 minutes. Right, hopefully, when we plug this in, there won't be a big bang. I don't have a stop button for this socket. But we do have fuses. Way, there it is, it's gone into charge. Now, one of the best instruments you can have is your nose. No, there's nothing not right. So we'll come back to that in whatever time it takes to charge up that battery. Let's hope it isn't a... No, it's a standard capacity battery, so it'll probably charge in an hour. So I'm glad that's working. And we'll come back to that for our final, and hopefully it will go over to whatever it does when it's finished. And I don't know if I said it in the beginning because the day's passed, but this has the advantage of having a 6.5 volt 2 amp output for running these kind of cameras, whereas most of these chargers are simply chargers. This was a more expensive one. We've got another even more expensive one down here. And once again, that's got the socket on the side. And this is the AC-V515. It comes with an LCD display, which tells you a bit of data as the thing's charging, and you can switch manually between the camera and the charger. So, I mean, I paid, they're £149 for those, and I think we've paid one at full whack, and I think I've had a couple of second-hand ones. We do use a lot of these, and it's useful to have one with an output, because we actually use some of these type of cameras as security cameras. Right, there we go. Keep finding little screws. I'm going to try and get on with the Midland 203DS if this charger's still within working time. Well, 30 minutes later, and it's nice and warm, and it's still charging. Woo! Right, well, after a period of time, the charge light went out on this battery. Of course, I've not got an instruction book. I've never had one of this model charger before, so I don't quite know what happens. But if I put that battery back on, it will light up charge. So it's not like that's packed up. Right, so I've put another battery on it now, see how that goes. And meanwhile, we'll put this in one of our getting on Mavica cameras that we still use, because why not? Well, that does annoy me. Some of these have got internal batteries. And some of these don't have internal batteries. And if you don't use the ones which don't have the internal batteries for about a week, then their internal capacitor loses its charge. And I don't need a clock on it. So the reason I'm showing you this is the battery symbol on the left now shows fully charged. So jobs are good, as they say in Yorkshire, where I originate from. So we'll carry on with that on charge. We've run out of time on doing the Midland 203DS today, so that'll get put on tomorrow. So I hope you found that a bit different, and how we've got round the problem of putting in a different brand capacitor, which is exactly the right value but a temperature upgrade. And although it looks a bodge, at the end of the day, that's a product that now works. And I didn't want to send it back as faulty because I needed it. So thank you for watching the repair to the Sony charger power adapter AC-V515.